98.3 The Vibe Special Edition I.M.A.G.E TV Podcast, Sunday morning show. For all of you joining us now by YouTube, by satellite, we want to tell you thank you for tuning in. For those of you who have sacrificed your morning on 98.3 The Vibe Special Edition, we want to tell you that you're in for a treat this morning. We've got a lot to talk about. For those of you that are looking to be sponsors for the I.M.A.G.E show, for those of you who are looking for advertisement, for those of you who would like to make a donation to the I.M.A.G.E program, I encourage you to reach out. rpate.image@mail.com. That's rpate.image@mail.com. Or you can reach out to me by phone, 515-326-5498. Ken, we've got a lot to talk about this morning.
Boy, do we ever have a lot to talk about. We're going to prove that we're not scared to talk about anything here on this show.
That's right. Boy, and this is going to get deep. I've got to put my glasses on, ladies and gentlemen.
Man, I wish I'd have remembered mine. I just feel so bad being here without any shades, and you're getting all the attention.
Okay, so here's what we got on the card this morning. First of all, shouts out to Cash Cars in Kansas City, Missouri, Desmond Logan. That was a great event. Smoke your tires, not your homies. A positive movement Cash Cars has got going on in the Prospect area in Kansas City, Missouri. And so big shouts out to him. Also, we want to tell all of you guys out there that have been involved with the I.M.A.G.E movement. We just want to remind some of you who are not familiar with the I.M.A.G.E program. I.M.A.G.E stands for Inmate Movement Against Gang Evolution. I am the founder, Robert Pate. I founded the program at North Central Correctional Facility with Ken Silver here to my right. My co-host, he is on the show again this morning with us. And Ken was a huge part of this movement and getting this thing running and off the ground. And man, we're here now.
Oh yeah, we've come a long ways, and this is an exciting life that we're leading here and the way we're headed down the road.
Now, I want to tell you all a story, okay? I want to tell you a very, very interesting story that you're going to love. Ken, you're going to love this.
Okay.
This little kid, about 7 years old, comes up to me, a little white kid, and he says, "Hey, Bobby," he says, "Hey, I got a question for you." He says, "Hey, I want to tell you this. I want to ask you this because I can trust you, and I know that you won't get offended." I says, "Yeah, go ahead, son. Tell me what it is." And he says, "Why is it that black people hate black people?" I said, "What?" He said, "Why is it that black people hate black people?" I said, "Black people don't hate black people." He says, "Here, I want you to read this." He had a little folder, had some papers inside of it. He took the papers out, and I gave him his folder back. I went home and I read this stuff, and it blew me away on the black on black crimes. And it opened my eyes. So we're here today, ladies and gentlemen, to talk about black on black crimes. Ken Silver, talk to us.
Oh, I'll tell you what, when we look at all the problems in society today, we look at the protests that are going on, we look at all the problems. I don't think there's too much any more serious than the black on black crimes. It's devastating our neighborhoods. It's ruining generations of people. And we've got to figure out how to put a stop to that just as soon as we can. I don't understand it at all.
Well, I'll tell you, now, when I was a kid, I can vaguely remember, I'm 46 years old, but I could vaguely remember times when the African-American culture in Des Moines, Iowa, where I grew up. And by the way, for those of you out there tuned in right now by YouTube, by satellite, we want to encourage you to stay involved. Get out there and subscribe. The viewers, the numbers continue to go up, and we want it to continue to rise. We pray that it continues to spread and rise. So get out there and tell somebody about the I.M.A.G.E show, #1 in the country. The #1 reentry show in all the country, right here in Des Moines, Iowa.
That's right.
And so, we want to make sure that this movement gets spread all over the country. So we're talking about black on black crimes today. And I think that this is so interesting. This is going to really rock your socks, Ken.
I'll tell you, things have changed so much in the past few years, and I don't understand it. We're going to take a look. But when I was young...
wait. When you were young, I was telling a story. I got thrown off. Hold on real quick.
You don't remember when I was young?
No, I couldn't even begin to think
Go ahead,
back that
finish
far.
your story.
That's Methuselah days, Ken. Listen, anyway, when I was a kid, I could vaguely remember. The point that I was trying to get to is Center Street.
Yeah.
In Des Moines, Iowa.
Yeah, I remember.
You remember Center Street?
I used to be white.
What are you now?
You talk about injustice. They wouldn't let me in down there.
Oh.
But the point I want to make is that was a totally black neighborhood.
Yes,
those
it was.
people got along with each other. They had a lot of bars. They had nightclubs. They had some gambling. In those days, you couldn't just go in and buy a liquor drink. You had to belong to a club. And they had these clubs down there. They had very little crime. Those people were taking care of themselves. They were trying to work together. They were having fun, and they didn't have a problem. You look around today at somebody that starts a black nightclub or a black tavern or black bar, it doesn't last very long until there's a big shooting and some kind of a problem going on, and then night after night it keeps happening, and pretty soon the police come and they want to take their liquor license away.
Amazing.
What's happened?
Amazing that you say that. I was just thinking about that. Again, growing up as a kid, I remember all these different nightclubs being open and then being shut down. It seemed like it was the best thing next to sliced butter when the club first opened, and then all of a sudden you hear about these shootings, 911 calls, and the club gets shut down. It's happened all throughout my life here in Des Moines, Iowa, but when you go to other states, when you go to other cities, when you go to Atlanta, Georgia, when you go to Los Angeles, California, New York, all these other cities, they have establishments that have been going on for decades.
Yeah.
They've had some problems here and there, but they still have come together. And in Des Moines, Iowa, I remember going back to those times at Center Street, the blacks stuck together more.
Exactly. And they say they stick together today. But the reality is, for some reason, they want to commit crimes against each other.
They say they stick together. They say we stick together.
Yeah, we.
Well, wait, not you, me.
Oh,
they say
you're leaving me out of this now. Anyway, here's another thing that I don't understand. We don't have other nationalities having the same problem. We have
you're right.
An influx of Asians. We have an influx of Bosnians. We've had an influx of Hispanics. They all live in neighborhoods together. They have socializing together. But you don't hear about all the crimes that they commit to each other. There's something special going on with black people in the black neighborhood that we've got to figure out what's going on and how do we do something about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're tuned into 98.3 The Vibe Special Edition Image TV Podcast Early Morning Show. Those of you joining us by YouTube, we want to encourage you to get out there and subscribe. Tell everybody else about the #1 reentry show in all America. Right here in Des Moines, Iowa. It's the Image TV Podcast. You can just go to YouTube and type up I.M.A.G.E. TV Podcast, and we pop right up. We're going to go to a quick commercial. When we come back, we're going to talk more about black on black crime. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, on the Image TV Podcast, 98.3 The Vibe Special Edition. Shouts out to Rhea Spigner. Shouts out to Desmond Logan. Shouts out to the Image TV Podcast. The Image TV Podcast.
You're right. You ever heard of that?
The Image TV podcast. I like the way that sounds. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking about some pretty deep stuff. And, I want to encourage anyone out there right now that's listening to this show, please do not hesitate to articulate. If there's something that you feel that you can contribute to this show, to this topic that we're on, we're going to be on this for a couple of weeks. At least, I believe, aren't we, Ken?
I think so. It's pretty tough, and we're not going to be able to gloss over it in 1 or 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I would like to get the Des Moines community involved. For someone out there that may be listening that's from Des Moines, Iowa, you were around when Center Street was really grooving. You remember that real well. If you would like to come on the show, again, please reach out to me at rpate.image@mail.com. or 515-326-5498. If you would like to become a sponsor, if you're looking for advertisement, if you're looking, to be a part of the image movement and you want to find out more about what's going on, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. This subject, ladies and gentlemen, can become kind of a touchy topic. And so I want to make sure that everyone out there that's listening can really get a good feel for what we're talking about and what we're saying. We're talking about why is it that there's so much black on black crime. I know that this subject is not talked about very much, and I believe that it's important to me. I believe that it's important to my family. Education, we need to get a good understanding and talk about these things so that we can get it out there to help ourselves.
Get it out in the open.
That's right.
And as you said, I think any black people been a victim of black on black crime, or even if you've been somebody that did the crime, we'd love to hear from you. We want to get as much input as possible. We've gotten on the internet and done as much research as we can, because this is a subject where we don't want to just give you our opinion. We want to have some facts. We want to try to know exactly what the causes are, and then let's see how we can address them and what possible solutions might come on. But, the first thing that is well known, it's blacks on blacks. 90% of the black murders in 2014, now this according to the FBI, and I'm sure it hasn't got any better, 90% of the black murders were committed by other black people. So that's a startling, scary statistic that we've got to take a look at and figure out why. One of the things that comes up, and I think we probably are well aware of that, has to do with the neighborhood that you live in. And it was exciting to me and very interesting to know that the study showed that neighborhoods with a strong religious influence, where a lot of people went to church, and you remember the old days, we had a black church in every neighborhood. You went to church 3 or 4 times a week. It might last 3 or 4 hours on Sunday morning. The families went, they took their kids. This was just part of your life. And they've proven that type of an atmosphere reduces the crime significantly. The other thing they found is that neighborhoods with a high percentage of broken homes raises the crime rate. So there's 2 significant things we've learned right off the bat. Dealing with the spiritual life helps. Not having dad around to help raise the kids hurts.
I agree. Now, one of the devastating statistics that I thought was shocking was the 90% of black murders are by their own black people, our own black people. I mean, that's just ridiculous. 90% of the murders that happen to blacks are by blacks.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense, does it?
No.
Well, we're going to take a look at it. The other thing is scary. Most of those happen with kids between 17 and 35 years old. It's young people. Yeah. And I think in Des Moines here the other day, we had somebody 14, 15 years old shooting somebody.
Now, see, there's another topic is under these stats is education.
Oh.
And I've always said that, even though I've never been good at it. But education is the number one key. It says right here, 65% have not completed high school. 65% of the African Americans have not completed high school, and nearly 95% have not graduated from college.
Okay, let's tie that into what we learned just a minute ago. When you're a young person, 14, 15, 16 years old, and you don't want to go to school, what makes you go to school?
Your parents.
Your parents.
Mom and dad,
Yeah.
or if dad's not there, at least mom. Mom's going to make you go. Mom is who made me go.
Yeah, and you get to be 16 years old and dad's not there, and you start being defiant, and pretty soon mom just gives up and says, all right, you're on your own.
Or imagine if mom and dad's not there.
Yeah, that's even worse. So we know that lower education levels are a big contributor to crime, period, and especially when you have a lot of black people not continuing their education. That's one of the reasons we think that we've got a lot of black-on-black crime. The other thing that they want to take a look at is what they call socioeconomic status. Now, that's a pretty big word, and I'm not sure I understand it all. I think it has to do with how much money you make, but it also has to do with the family again, because one of the things they've shown is that strong parental bonds significantly reduce crime.
That's right. You know, Ken, speaking of all this crime that we're talking about, whether it be black on black, white, white on white, or whatever, we have people that are tuned in right now that are in the Polk County Jail, that females that may be in Mitchellville, people that are incarcerated right now. I want to encourage you, if you're out there listening right now, to remember that this time of incarceration is a time that you need to take seriously. It's a time that you can utilize for your own kingdom, for God's kingdom, not for your own. It's a time that you can utilize to develop your own path in life. Come out with a focus. Come out with an understanding of some self-identity and who you are, and don't fall into the traps that allow you to be held in bondage of incarceration. For those of you that are maybe serving a long-term sentence or even a life sentence, I want to encourage you to not give up, because God has definitely a light shed for you. He has a prize. He has a miracle waiting for you. Your prayers are going to be answered if you do not give up. Continue to keep hope alive in Jesus' name.
Some great advice to everyone. Thank you for Pastor Pate. And
I'm not a pastor.
We would hope that people take that seriously, because there's some good advice.
Yeah, but it always concerns me. I think about those people that are still incarcerated. I think about that 11 years straight that I did, and how it ended up leading to now a legacy developing in the process of the I.M.A.G.E for Lives program. But it was through prayer and suffocation. It was through meditation. It was through fasting. It was through a lot of these different things now that I see manifesting that the work was put in, and it's open opportunity for everybody. Not saying everyone has to start their own program, but, there's always something unique and special for each and every one of us. And just because you go to prison, you don't lose that prize.
Well, I firmly believe each one of us has got a job to do. We just need to pay attention and know what it is and go to work and do it. There's a reason why we're here on earth, and we need to follow that. One of the things that they talked about as far as black people wanting to commit crimes, whether it's against white people or black people, is hostility. And I think I see that a lot, especially in the young people. I think too many of them are in poor economic situations. Maybe they haven't gone to school. They don't have decent jobs. And it's like, what have I got to live for? What's my future? I don't see it. A lot of them started out in life, and arguing and fighting is just a way of life. I think we were talking the other day at one of these fatherhood classes, and this young man said, the only time my father ever told me I did something good was when I came home and told him I'd beat up some other kid. I got in a fight. That's what made my father proud of me. So, you can understand.
Well, and this goes back to why I really support programs like the Evelyn K. Davis program. And I know you guys probably get tired of me talking about the Evelyn K. Davis program, but the reality is that these guys are offering programs for free at no cost, especially in the time of a pandemic like this. Programs that help people discover self-identity, start businesses and things like that. I think that, when you talk about black on black crime and parents not being there, Miss Evelyn K. Davis was that parent for the inner city kids in Des Moines, Iowa. And that legacy is still living today through the direction of Director Marvin DeGier, who is the director of the Evelyn K. Davis Center. And he is a prime example, ladies and gentlemen, of someone with good integrity. Nobody's perfect, but this man, he does a lot for the community. I've witnessed it. He's helped a lot of people in ways that they really needed the help deep down inside.
Well, I think another key is that people have to have hope.
They've got to have hope.
They have to be able to see a way out. They have to figure out, how can I get out of this poverty? How can I get a decent job? How can I get a decent family and keep going? So I think that's very important. I think the other thing that's important is, I'm not sure that we are raising our children to respect authority.
Not at all.
In the home or in the school. When I was young, the teachers had every right to paddle me with a paddle. They had every right to discipline me.
Yes.
It never hurt anything.
No.
Today, if a teacher talks, critically to a child while the mother's up there screaming and hollering about, you hurt Johnny's feelings,
yes.
And this kind of stuff. So they grow up thinking that, hey, we don't have to respect authority.
That's right.
And they don't respect their families. And so I think that's another big problem, where it just leads to law enforcement. We don't respect the laws. We don't think we've got to follow them. So we ended up doing these crimes. So the last thing about hostility that really hit me, and I never dreamed of it, mm-hmm. A lot of these young people that are feeling hostile, don't like, whatever, is because they were rejected by their peers when they were younger. And so they started out in grade school not being popular, and they've been having this chip on their shoulder ever since. And now it's become manifested when they're old enough to do something to physically harm someone. So,
yeah. Well, a lot of it comes, like you said, Ken, the educational part is something that we need to take a look at. And I think that we've come a long way as African Americans, especially pertaining to education. To our credit, there's also were a lot of restrictions on education at an early time for African Americans to be able to obtain the education that they needed. So some of it was actually, not our fault.
Well, we went through cycles. Years ago, you weren't even allowed to go to school. You had to go work. They never even thought about letting you go to school. Then you had the opportunity to go to school, and a lot of people did go to school, and became well educated.
A lot of white people went to school and became well educated. A lot of black people still did not go to school and become educated. There were few bits and pieces of them, but you look at today, how many African American you see enrolled in college. There's a whole lot.
All the basketball players.
No, that's a full ride scholarship.
All the football players.
That's a full ride scholarship. But you just look at the students in general nowadays, people who aren't even involved in athletics, and you find a high percent of African Americans nowadays that are enrolled in college. I don't know what those statistics are, but I'd be interested
when you look at the percentages, remember, we only got about 15% that are black to start with. And 15% of the 20 or 30,000 students enrolled at one of the Iowa universities is not very many. So on a percentage-wise, it may still be pretty well.
Yeah. I think that this black-on-black crime, though, it needs to really be addressed. It needs to be talked about, and we need to really key into some more of this. So we're going to go to a quick break. Again, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you out there who may be listening to the show, you live in Des Moines, Iowa, and you would like to come on the show and talk about Center Street. You remember the times when the 60s in Des Moines, Iowa, the early 70s when times were much different. You may have had a business up at that time. You may have had a family member that had a business up that you used to help out with. Whatever the case may be, if you would like to get involved, please do feel free to reach out to me. Again, 515-326-5498, or go to the email address, rpate.image@mail.com. We are working on a professional website, a fancy website. It should be up and running here probably next week. So we're going to go to a quick break. Ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, we're going to talk more about black on black crimes. We'll be back after these messages. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, on the Image Show, Image TV podcast, early morning, Sunday morning, special edition, 98.3 The Vibe. We want to encourage you, don't forget to get out there and subscribe on YouTube to the Image TV podcast. For those of you who are looking to become sponsors, for those of you who would like advertisement, reach out at rpate.image@mail.com. And we're talking about now black on black crimes.
Well, we've covered quite a bit so far today, and we've got 3 more areas that we'd like to cover, and we ran out of time, so we'll try to get those next week. But you might be thinking about these in the meantime and see what you think of them. Disrespect. People feel disrespect, and, we all want to be respected. There's a saying that respect is earned, not given. And I think maybe people misunderstand that, and they think they should be given respect for no special reason, and we're going to talk about that. The other is what they call the wannabe, the guys that want recognition, they want to be part of something, and so on. And then there's a situation where people just have self-hate. They're not happy with their situation. They're not happy with themselves, and they want to take it out on others. So we're going to talk about those 3 things next week. Hopefully we'll have somebody on here that can help explain it to us a little better. So we're about ready to wrap this thing up. We do know that we've discovered a couple things here this morning. And the first one is spiritual lives help reduce crime. And it reduces black on black. It reduces black on white. It reduces white on white. The other thing is complete families greatly reduce crime of all types. When we have 75% of the black families that are not complete, we're bound to have high crime rates. 35% of the white families are not complete. That's probably a big reason why we have less white on white crime or white on black or whatever. So a couple of things we've learned today. We're looking forward to next week and see what happens then.
Yeah, I think this was great, Ken. And for those of you, again, who have sacrificed your morning, for those of you out there who are joining us by YouTube and satellite, we just, again, want to tell you thank you. We appreciate your support. We pray for all the support to be spreaded. Get out there, subscribe, and spread the word for America's #1 reentry show, #1 in all America. We're not just talking about Des Moines, Iowa. We're reaching out to all America. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Robert Pate. We're asking and requesting that you have a great week. Until next time, it's a wrap.